Hey, our next speaker is Kevin Walsh, and here he is. So Kevin's an educator, an amazing photographer, and a super naturalist. He's helped out with a lot of projects here, including the Long Island Mammal Survey and the river otter work. So Kevin, thank you for coming. He's going to talk about his Screech-Owl project.
Well, thank you, Mike, for inviting me. It's quite an honor to be here as a presenter. And as Mike said, yeah, I'm here to talk about my 35 plus years of experience hosting screech owls in my nest boxes, in my backyard, as well as my brother's property and my parents' property. That's one of my backyard screech owls right there. I like to think of them as my backyard pets. And that's my most recent construction there. I made that for my dad for Father's Day, and I decided to engrave a little screech owl on the front. And he said to me, "Don't you think that might scare the screech owls away? I don't know. I don't know if they're going to want to go in there now." I said, "Well, I guess it's an experiment. We'll have to see what happens." So to be determined. So a little bit about me, as Mike said, I'm a naturalist, an educator, an explorer, a photographer, and a writer. I've been studying nature, since childhood. And anything that gets me outside, that's where I will be. I've been building birdhouses since I was a child. My dad inspired me to start doing that, and that's part of the reason why I've now graduated to screech owl nest boxes. There's me. So, yep, it's been a long time and quite a journey. I've been building and monitoring screech owl nest boxes for going on 35 years now. And I wrote, a couple of years ago, I wrote an article for BirdWatching magazine, documenting my experience and offering some tips on how people could duplicate my experience in their own property, or public property like a golf course or a cemetery or other suitable landscapes where you might be able to get permission to install one. There's a layout of the article that I wrote for BirdWatching magazine. This is a story that I shared with Newsday a couple of years ago. This is probably my best screech owl sighting ever. I was traveling home with my 4th grade students on a school bus coming home from a field trip. And if you've ever been on a school bus with a bunch of 4th graders coming back from a field trip, it's chaos. And out of the corner of my eye, school bus going, 35 miles an hour or so down the road, I spotted that. This serene owl sitting in a hollow of a tree. We blew past it, and I thought, did I really see that? I'm not sure. So we got back to school. I was looking at the clock. I was waiting for the day to end so I could shoot home, get my camera, and go back, and because I was doubting myself. And I went back, and there it was. I hadn't moved a feather. So in a lot of ways, I consider the screech owl to be like my spirit animal. So how did this all start for me? Started a little bit in an unusual way. I was watching a Yankee game on my couch. I had the back door open to my patio. I was listening, it was a September evening, I was listening to that autumn chorus of crickets chirping away, and a sound joined that chorus that I was unfamiliar with. It sounded like an eerie, ghost-like whinny, and I thought it was a friend of mine playing a practical joke on me. He always liked to scare me. I went out into the backyard searching for him, only to discover it was not him, and the noise was coming from way above me in a tree. So shortly thereafter, my mom captured that photograph on our basketball hoop, put 2 and 2 together, and I said, we've got screech owls frequenting our yard. How can I increase my frequency of seeing them? How can I experience them more? I thought, well, it's time to build the largest birdhouse of my life. I built it, and it wasn't shortly thereafter that there was the face of a screech owl looking out of the entry hole. So they do work. Why build a screech-owl nest box? To me, some of the reasons are obvious. Earlier today, unfortunately, the topic of rodenticides came up. These guys are natural pest predators. They eat insects, they eat rodents, they eat other things, which I'll show you in a minute, which not everyone's thrilled about. But instead of spraying our properties with these poisons that we all know have unintended consequences, let these guys do the job, and they do quite a good job of it. Another issue is loss of suitable nesting cavities. A lot of trees get cut down that are prime nesting cavities for them. People are concerned about safety. Some people don't like the look of a dead or dying tree. So by putting up these nest boxes, we're going to lend Mother Nature a hand, provide them with those nesting opportunities that they might not otherwise be able to find. In a lot of ways, our suburban landscape is perfect for these guys. We've got a lot of ornamental plants and trees, evergreens that they can roost in. A lot of us feed the birds. Bird seed attracts things that they can eat. But sometimes the one thing that they're lacking is suitable nesting cavities. So that's where we can come in and make a difference. Mentioned that already. This is a great opportunity to get kids involved, inspire the next generation of conservationists. I can speak from experience. The first time you see an owl's face looking out the hole of the owl house that you put up, it's a moment you're not going to forget. So, get the kids involved, and, they'll take it from there. And this provides endless entertainment, and other than, the cost of building the house, it's free. I sit in my backyard for, many an hour, and I just take in the sights and the sounds, and they put on quite a show. So there's the answer to my dad's question right there. He took that picture out his window after one of our most recent snowstorms. So that's new news right there. So timeline. Screech-owls use the nest boxes this time of year for shelter, especially after weather like we've been having lately. In late March or early April, they lay a clutch of 3 to 5 eggs. From my experience, all the eggs don't hatch. Usually 1 or 2 do not hatch. It takes about a month for the incubation to occur. Meanwhile, the male provides the food. So that's where some evergreen trees come in handy. That's how I often find and photograph the owls in my yard. The male will be roosting nearby in one of my evergreens. The owl lets fledge in late May or early June. Then their parents feed them for another 8 to 10 weeks. And then the box goes unoccupied for a while, especially during the summer. It's kind of mysterious to me. These birds literally vanish. I don't see or hear them in June, July, August, rarely in October, in September and October. Occasionally I'll see one roost in the box, but it's not consistent. You may or may not know this is a polymorphous species. A lot of species of birds, the male is brighter colored than the female. The Eastern Screech-Owl comes in 2 primary color phases, the rufous color phase right there and a gray phase. And it has nothing to do with whether it's a male or female bird. Now, at our latitude, states like Connecticut, New Jersey, the Hudson River Valley, generally speaking, the grays outnumber the reds. Ratio is about 75% gray to 25% red. But ironically or interestingly, on Long Island, it's flip-flopped. The reds dominate, and it's about 75% red to 25% gray. And sometimes the breeding pairs consist of both color morphs. I've had that occur in my backyard, and that's a lot of fun to observe because you really, when you see them side by side, sometimes they'll roost together in an evergreen, and you see the gray sitting side by side with the rufous color. That's pretty neat. It's quite a reward for putting up a nest box. So once again, the rufous is the most common. These are some photographs again I took in my backyard. And the gray being less common. That was out the school, well, that's the one I saw at the school bus window. That one I took in my backyard there. Now, this demonstrates the color morph ratio right here. That's a rufous, that's a rufous, and that's a rufous, and that's a gray. I'm a trail camera aficionado as well, and I captured this, as you can see, this past summer in July. These are 4 recently fledged Screech-Owls. None of them have the plumicorns, the ear tufts, and so there were 4 young ones right there. And I have a video of them as well, short video clip showing them moving around a little bit here. Yeah, they were just grabbing like the pine cones and just seemed to be exploring and playing. All right, so one of the great things about being a naturalist is just when you think you've seen everything, you discover something new. Something occurs that you didn't anticipate, maybe you had no knowledge of whatsoever, and this occurred within the last year in my backyard. Quite a surprise to me. So I found a hollow tree limb, and I mounted it on a post in my backyard, put a roof in it and a floor in it, and that owl showed up. That's not a rufous, and that's not a gray. That's a brown color phase. And apparently, the percentage is very, very small, like less than 3%, anywhere between 1 and 3% come in a brown color phase. At this point in my life, I've seen hundreds of Screech-Owls, and I've never seen that before. So there are all 3 color morphs in that very tree cavity in my backyard. Rufous, gray, brown. When I found that tree cavity, my mind kind of raced, and I thought, this really could be fun. And they're not in it frequently, but I've had some pretty good success so far, so that's quite a reward. How do you know if you got Screech-Owls around? Well, there's some signs to look for. I'm sure many of you are aware of them. One of them is mobbing by other birds. You'll have multi-species flocks of birds congregate in an area, making a lot of noise, very raucous, fixated on something that's seemingly, hidden in the foliage. Maybe some sounds. It might sound like a horse whinny. It might sound like a toad trilling. And then owl pellets. They oftentimes swallow their prey whole. They can't digest the bones and the exoskeletons, so they cast them out. They regurgitate them. The owl pellets, are about that big. That's a penny there to give some scale. You can see that there's, some bones embedded in a couple of these pellets. Those are 2 pellets up top, probably a little older. They seem to have, they have a lot of different vocalizations, but the 2 most common are the horse-like whinny, or the ghost-like whinny. I kind of think it sounds like a ghost, and the toad-like trill. So hopefully you'll be able to hear them. Got a couple of recordings of them here. Yeah, I tend to hear the horse whinny more often in the fall, and the toad-like trill in the spring. But I hear them at all seasons, but that's when I tend to hear those 2 most often. Now, this is inside my nest box. I installed a bird camera, a green backyard bird camera, and I've gotten some pretty interesting captures since I did that. I only just did that within the last year, so that's a new thing for me. If you're into technology, this is just another way to learn about them and enjoy them. And that went on for quite a while. That was a chatty one, but I had to cut it short for the presentation. And here's the toad-like trill. Right, so these guys are opportunistic predators. Their diet will vary with the seasons, and they'll convert over. Springtime, lots of invertebrates, lots of insects, rodents year-round. And one thing I've learned by inspecting their nest boxes is they eat songbirds, especially in the wintertime. This particular photo I took, it has a chipmunk that it has captured there. In the springtime, insects are more readily available, so they eat a lot of insects and vertebrates. Wintertime, the amount of songbirds that I witnessed them eating increases, and then rodents year-round. These are some video clips of the adults feeding the owlets some insects at my nest box. All bite-sized morsels, insects. This is a wintertime capture that I got last winter. Oh, that's a junco. All right, so I've witnessed some interesting interspecies dynamics, especially with the blue jays. Blue jays and screech-owls hate each other. And great horned owls will eat screech-owls. So I have a video clip here of something that I captured right behind my screech-owl nest box last year. This here. Now, that's obviously good for the great horned owls, but I don't think it's a coincidence. It broke my streak of 17 straight years at my current house of having nesting screech-owls in my nest box. I did not have nesting screech-owls this past year, and screech-owls are on the menu for great horned owls, and I have quite an increase in great horned owl activity, vocalizations, and so on. I'm not really sure what happened, but the screech-owls may have chosen to leave for their own safety. I'll never know. Blue jays. The blue jays dominate by day. The screech-owls dominate at night. One of the interesting adaptations of the screech-owl are their plumicorns, those ear-like, horn-like feather tufts that they have on top of their head. When they have them raised, usually that's a sign that they're not relaxed, and when they're relaxed, they lower them. What are the purposes? I mean, clearly one of them is camouflage. They look like leaves to me, kind of breaks up the outline of their body. But the other one is a communication. It clearly indicates their mood and how relaxed or agitated they are, as this video is about to show. So it starts off, you can't see the plumicorns. This owl was relaxed. I was watching it for a while. It was preening, and then this started. tough to see because it happened so quick, but the blue jay actually hit the owl on a couple of occasions and knocked some feathers loose. Well, but some people seem upset by that, but don't worry, at night the screech-owl gets its revenge. And those feathers were not collected, they were plucked, I'm sure. I opened up this house on Mother's Day this past year, not expecting there to be an owl in it because we hadn't seen any activity, and this owl chose to roost in it, and you could see the rainbow of feathers in there, primarily blue jay feathers. There's also some cardinal feathers as well, so they do prey on other birds. Fledging is probably the most exciting time when you start to see the owlets look out of the nest box. They're starting to run out of room in there. They're all getting bigger. They also get curious about what's going on outside that box. And also they want to be first in line at dinner time. So as the sun starts to set, whoever's first is going to get the first eats delivered. The one there that I'm holding there, it prematurely fell out of the box. I took it to Sweetbriar Nature Center. They gave it some medical treatment. We popped it back in the box and had a happy ending. So when you start to see that, you know that it's almost over, that they're going to fly the coop pretty soon. You start to hear them calling more often from the house. They start to look out more frequently, and they start to wrestle at the entry hole. Fledging is soon to come. And here they are. Ingenious use of the bill. Wait for it. All right, so these guys really can camouflage well. That one's about head high in one of my arborvitaes. And they're shapeshifters. They literally can change their shape. They'll compress themselves down into a ball. They'll expand themselves up to be taller, more intimidating, or maybe look like a broken tree branch. So if you want to get some screech owls, in addition to a box, get some evergreens. I have a bunch of tips here for construction, but I think I've run out of my time. But squirrels are a problem. So you want to mount it on a freestanding pole. Wrap the pole with some aluminum sheathing to keep the squirrels from climbing up it. I found that dry pine needles is the best substrate. Wood chips and sawdust tend to absorb moisture, so pine needles seem to work better. Screws are better for a more durable box. And screech owls like to sunbathe. That's one of the fun things about them. They'll pop their heads out quite often. Obviously, if you face it toward the sun, that's better. So south, west, or southwest are the best directions to face it. All right, so hopefully I've inspired a couple of people to follow my lead and put up your own box. From Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. That's one of my favorite lines. There's one inside my nest box. Facebook resource, there's people all over the country doing this. So if you're looking for some more inspiration and some information, you can check out this group page here. And I don't know, should I take any questions? We gotta move on. All right.
That was great.